Hi, this is Nicola Whitehall. Today I'm doing a prophetic blueprint, a ministry blueprint for Maureen and Ryan of Move Over Ministries, Kentucky. So I can do prophetic blueprints and I can do ministry prophetic blueprints. They're around 230 New Zealand dollars, which translates to about 150 US dollars. If you want one of these, either of the ministry blueprint or the prophetic blueprint, just email me at nicolawhitehall777@gmail.com and I'll put that email in the description underneath this video. So I'm just going to get started. So we're going to start. We've got 16 points here. So this is for Maureen and Ryan. Point number 1. I'll just get going. I'll start reading out what the Lord has given me, and then I may or may not get extra revelation as I go. I'll just see how I go. So point number 1. You'll have favour with the masses. So God is going to give you a ministry favour with government officials, ministers of parliament, senators, governors, people in authority, kings, queens, princes and princesses, and those in big business. The Lord will sometimes ask you to come into a town or a city for some sort of crusade or big event. That the Lord will ask you to travel to that place, that stadium event or whatever, and you will be asked to go by faith. You'll have money for the airline ticket, but you may not have any money for anything extra like the hotel or food or anything. But what's going to happen is you're going to be contacted by people from big business that are going to cover the cost of the finance for your event, and I can see several businesses chipping in, and I can see even local governments and councils giving you donations, and I also can see shops donating food and health and beauty products and free products for the people that are coming to your event. I see the Lord giving you favour in that city that you're doing the stadium event or conference that you're in. The Lord gives you favour everywhere you go. So all you'll be required to do is get the airline ticket, step on the plane, and the Lord is going to stir people's hearts to give you the money you'll need for staying in that place. So a good thing to remember is that the early disciples were told by Jesus to go out taking no food, no bag, no money, etc. And so I feel like the Lord is saying it's going to be like that for his disciples in the last days. They're going to be asked to go out with minimum provisions, but the Lord is going to provide. So point number 2 is de-stressor products, and this is something for Maureen. I feel Maureen is going to be making resources which people can use for healing. So it's going to be like compilations of some of her most favourite Christian relaxing instrumental musical songs. I sense that she's going to be singing or speaking over the music as it is recorded for albums. She's going to be speaking prophetic words of God over the music as it's given her, as God gives it to her, as well as the actual word of God. I also sense that the album she'll be doing will be for different people in different situations. For example, there might be an album with sung or spoken words by Maureen over sick children in hospital, parents who have lost children, people in war-torn countries, old people, older singles, younger singles, those facing illness or bankruptcy, even those in mental institutions, and much more. The Lord is going to give you prophetic words, encouragement, comfort, insight, wisdom, for people in these different situations like the ones I've just mentioned. So you're going to have healing words, comforting words, restoring words, and even healing words that are going to come as you speak over the music, which is designed to minister. It will be Holy Spirit filled music to minister to people in different situations, to bring healing and restoration and all the rest. And I can see people getting transformation and breakthrough in their lives as they listen to these words of encouragement and hope. The Lord will also give Maureen scriptures and step-by-step instructions in her spirit, which will heal many when they hear them and put these instructions into place. There's not just going to be prophetic words, but there's going to be like kind of words of wisdom spoken, different things. I can see she'll do a CD and USB stick on hearing the voice of God. I can see her selling these albums and CDs and USB sticks at Ryan's conferences that he's speaking at, and I can see them selling like hotcakes. So by word of mouth, people around the world actually are going to hear about these different resources and the power of God on them, because they're really going to change people's lives, these music and words, and they're literally going to change lives and heal people. You're actually going to sell out of these resources because they're going to be so popular. Even when you bring extra because you know they're popular, you're still going to run out of them. But you're also going to have like forms where people can fill in their credit card and information, address information and name, and you can send the resources to people. When you get home. Number 3 is an interesting one. So children's and caregivers outreach fun gospel event organisers. So this is something you're going to be doing together. I can see the two of you creating fun events for children, which will attract not only the Christian crowd, but will be particularly an outreach event that attracts, more of the unsaved people. Some of the people that won't feel comfortable coming to a Christian conference event or stadium event will be happier coming to a fun event for children and families. So this will be like an outreach. I see like an indoor venue with giant bouncy castles and like those kind of bins where they have lots of different coloured balls that kids jump into and play around in, just all sorts of fun children's equipment. I see children climbing all over the play equipment, which will attract many families to this event because it's going to be free. It's going to be sponsored by various businesses and people that sponsor you. I see you, or whoever you assigned to do this, taking the children after they've had their time on the play equipment off to the side. I can see people dressed in funny costumes and actors acting out Bible stories that you're reading to them or other stories, and I can see the actors acting out these stories and wearing funny costumes. I can see the kids laughing and really enjoying it. And as the children are taken aside for the stories, the Bible stories, I can see the parents being taken aside and being ministered to, being loved on, being given gifts of food, and just prayed for by the ministers for any needs they have. They won't necessarily advertise themselves as ministers. They'll just be people there who mix in with the crowd and approach the parents and say, can we pray for you? And they'll be given loving care packages and stuff like that to take home with their families. I also see Ryan high up on a balcony speaking into a loudspeaker or microphone, and it's I see him actually preaching, like telling the story of Genesis, and also I feel Joseph, the Technicolor Dreamcoat story. And I can see that as he's preaching this, way up high, and everyone's looking up at him, there's going to be like a film, giant projections of like creation, like for when he's reading Genesis. There's going to be giant, like huge, like several meters, lots and lots of meters, like 10 meters high images of flowers and birds and worlds being created. So someone's going to create a film installation, so that as Ryan is preaching, there's going to be all these pictures, so it's going to be really come to life in multimedia. I can see that the children are really amazed. They have their mouths wide open, and they're captivated by images of the world being formed. And also I can before this preaching of Genesis and Joseph, I can see competition forms being given out to the parents and children, and many of them will, as I say, be unsaved, be attracted to the event. The unsaved will be attracted to the event because it's less threatening than a specifically advertised religious outreach. So there'll be like competition forms and questions to answer, so the kids and the parents are going to be really engaged, because there's a prize if they get the most questions right or have the most creative answers. There's going to be runner-up prizes. That's what I'm seeing, is that just how this event is going to be run. And yeah, so you can get other people to organise all this, and you can just turn up or whatever. So yeah, I can see that the food will be sponsored by local businesses, and I can see that you'll be so popular, but that the local businesses will be fighting to sponsor you. They'll all want their businesses associated with your programs, because they're going to be fun, they're going to be exciting, they're going to be non-threatening, but they're also going to present that gospel message. So point number 4, resurrection power and healing ministry. So Ryan, I see you in morgues, raising the dead. I can see Maureen with you, comforting family members, speaking words of life back to people as they come back to life, and you're explaining to them what has happened, just being kind of pastoral ministry there. And I can also see you, Maureen, collecting stories of these people's experiences, maybe experiences they had in heaven or in the afterlife while they were dead. And I can see these books selling really well, that you collect these people's stories, you kind of follow up, do aftercare with these people who have been raised from the dead. Yeah, and I see Ryan trekking through really lush jungles. I know there's an outbreak of deadly disease that threatens to wipe out indigenous communities, which is what the Lord told me. And I can see Ryan placing his hand on people's heads, and many of the dead are resurrected. I can also see him laying his hands on ashes and human forms materializing out of there. It sounds amazing, but it will happen. I can also see in these situations with these indigenous people that people will try and lift up Ryan and hold him up and parade him around, but Ryan will refuse this kind of glorifying, and he will use the interpreters that travelled with him throughout the jungle to explain the gospel to the people. And I can see whole tribes being healed, delivered and resurrected, because I can see that some people have already died from whatever disease was kind of threatening to wipe out that particular community. So I feel like Ryan is going to be known as the jungle preacher, and there's going to be many others who will copy him or seek to copy him. Some will be successful, others will come to grief, some won't make it. This will be because they did not walk in wisdom, or they did not get training or wisdom from the Lord, or the Lord didn't send them to that place, but they went anyway. So Ryan, you're going to warn ministers not to follow in your footsteps unless they're called by God and had the training they need to do that. And many are going to listen, and their lives are going to be spared. Many that otherwise would have gone off to imitate what you're going to do and lose their lives. There's going to be many who will listen to you about your warning about this, and they'll have their lives spared. Some will come to grief, and people are going to blame God or even you, Brian. But Ryan, you will be operating in the glory of God and will not let other people's folly affect your ministry and the work God has called you to do. You'll be powering on to complete your mission, and you're not going to take responsibility for other people's errors because you tried to warn them and some of them just didn't want to listen. So point number 5, healing and hospital ministry and emotional healing. So this one, starting off with Maureen, is like going to be going around hospitals giving out flowers and gifts. I can see her organising toys for children to take into the hospitals. I can see her walking around the areas where sick people and children are in large refugees camps, and they're not really coping, but the toys are going to help bring them back to life again. So the people in the refugee camps, they're going to really enjoy the gifts, but mostly they're going to appreciate the concern and the time spent with a beautiful woman of God. I can also see Ryan coming along behind her and praying for many. I see invalids in refugee camps getting out of bed completely healed as Ryan prays for them, and also Maureen is going to lay her hands on sick people and see them healed. I see people who can't walk walking without the aid of crutches. I see people with spots and sores all over them, the skin clearing and becoming completely healthy. I also feel, Ryan and Maureen, that you're going to be going to places where leprosy is treated, places like countries like Nepal, cities like Kathmandu. I see you guys emptying whole hospitals. I see Maureen especially ministering to the woman and God healing their broken hearts through her for all the suffering and rejection that they've gone through with the stigma of having leprosy, of having that disease, and just the disability and the things that they couldn't do because of that illness. So there's going to be needed some tender loving care. I see Maureen and Ryan leaving behind a team of workers, social workers, occupational therapists, etc., to work with these people and help them integrate back into society, work and study, and help them deal with their emotional wounds and rejection, as I mentioned earlier. So point number 6, you're going to be peacemakers. So I see that in times of crisis and turmoil, that you, Maureen and Ryan, will sometimes be called in to settle matters and bring reconciliation or settlement of a matter. I can see this happening in warring factions or in political parties and issues in political parties and governments, where the country is kind of held in hostage and has stopped running because of issues and conflicts and arguments, and the disagreement is so great that they've just kind of ground to a halt. I can see Ryan sitting down with a few key leaders and God giving him wisdom from on high that will solve this crisis and bring the government a solution so things go back to working in that particular country. I also see a plus, like an intersection like this, and like a group of gangs at each of the 4 points, and I see them, they're about to fight. I see Ryan go into the centre, and I see him get down on his knees, and I see the glory and the presence of God fall, and I can see that instead of wanting to fight each other, the gang is actually going to come over and ask Ryan how they can be saved. I can see Ryan placing his hands on people's heads. He's hugging some of the men, and I can see that some of the men have never been hugged before. It's just like a new experience for them, and because not all of the members of the gang were there, Ryan is going to get invitations back to the gang headquarters and the families of the gang members to hear about Christ, and they're all going to, many are going to come to Christ. So point number 7, I've got healer for the sexually, physically, verbally and emotionally and mentally abused, plus rape victims and traumatized veterans. So I sense that you two will be doing healing seminars specifically to help people who have suffered trauma, particularly those who suffered with PTSD, problems such as flashbacks, memory loss, DID, mental and psychological torment and torture, those with anxiety and panic issues, and particularly those who can't function properly in society. I can see the two of you organising helpers that are there to support each person who comes to these smaller conferences, because these conferences are going to be smaller because more sensitive needs and issues. The conference isn't going to be that big. So each person that comes to the conference for healing and help will have a specially trained helper that you have assigned to them, who is trained in how to help people with that problem, and before the conference starts has chatted to them about their problems, their issues, prayed with them and discussed with that person who is coming for healing how they best want to be helped and supported for that day and other times. There'll be separate areas for people who just need a quiet space and separation from others. I see Maureen is going around tending to different needs or people who aren't coping, people who are bringing distractions to the others, like from whoever's talking, and I can see Maureen calming people down and praying for them. There'll be others that do this besides Maureen, other workers that are helping people who are in strife, but she's going to be the boss of them and will be assigning workers to where there are problems or issues with people. I can see that in these conferences where people are receiving healing and understanding and help, that both Ryan and Maureen will alternate in teaching the people, because they'll both have understanding on these areas. Sometimes the group will be broken down into men's and women's groups, where Maureen will counsel, teach and lead the women, and Ryan will do the same with the men. I see small same-sex groups after the teaching going to discuss what issues the teaching has brought up for them. I see leaders as well as participants praying for each other. I also sense that this group that Maureen and Ryan will be praying for and teaching and helping will be made up of a lot of people who are considered difficult cases that haven't been able to be reached by other people, not successfully had healing from other ministers and areas. and leaders in this seminar are going to be, or conference, whatever, are going to be highly trained and familiar with dealing with people who have experienced heavy trauma and abuse. So, 25 minutes. Point 8. Marriage seminar directors. I see books written by Maureen individually, books written by Ryan, and books co-authored by Ryan and Maureen on the topic of marriage and ministry, or just marriage. I see that God will give you many keys and insightful tools directly from heaven and the throne room that have been never heard of before. It's going to be new ideas, keys, strategies for this new decade, for this new era, that haven't been heard of before, that will help people. New keys that will repair marriages and are designed to bring rapid healing and breakthrough, and will be a catalyst to seeing even marriages where one or both partners were about to throw in the towel, bringing these marriages back to life again. So you're going to save many marriages. Many of these repaired marriages that will find solutions even when meeting with some of the marriage counsellors that will be available at the seminar for people to go to. And many of them will have their marriages healed, and they'll go on to do great things in ministry. The enemy was just trying to take them out with communication and marriage issues, but they're going to be healed, and they're going to go on, and they're going to do great things for God. And it's going to be credited to your account because you took the time to organise these seminars, to get the keys from God, to even live some of the keys that God has given you in your own life and marriage. And so you are responsible for helping them get their healing and being successful in the ministries that they then go out and do. You'll even also train up other people to take these sort of marriage seminars, and those people who do these seminars, you'll mentor them until they've found their feet and are okay to do it by themselves. So point number 9, trusted advisor. This is part 1. Okay, so I see Ryan as an advisor to many ministers and ministries, and an apostle over many ministries. I see him raising up apostles, starting to give them experience overseeing one ministry, and then 2 or 3, and then 6 or 7, and then going on to more. I see him training leaders of all ages in the apostolic ministry function. Maureen will also minister to the women who are leaders in ministry with their husbands, and will provide much wisdom which will save many marriages and ministries from failing. I can also see her counselling single women who are in ministry and providing a place of accountability for them. I think I can see her creating resources for single women in ministry, and just providing some sort of network to kind of link them all together, to share stories and exchange problems and information and experiences. I can see her definitely setting up something for a single woman in ministry. I can see ministers who are in strife or who don't know how to handle a situation in their church or ministry, such as a tragedy or a fall of a leader, reaching out to Ryan. Ryan, you're going to be given direct instructions and answers from God, and will help that minister for that season, but that minister will not be a part of your apostolic network, but they'll still remain under the apostolic covering that they already have. But you will help ministers who need help for exceptional situations, extraordinary, extreme situations that that their apostolic covering can't help them with, so you're going to be a go-to person, kind of like an expert. Ryan won't take, that's right. So Ryan, you're just going to insert godly answers and wisdom into an extreme situation or challenging season that needs extra reinforcements in terms of outside help, but once you've helped them, they'll go back under their apostolic, they won't even come under your apostolic covering, but they'll just come to you for advice, but they'll still be under their own apostolic covering. Point number 10 is placing the lonely in families, and specifically orphans. So I can see Ryan and Maureen setting up and overseeing a ministry that links orphans in different countries to adoptive families. They're going to oversee it and help make decisions that need to be made in this organisation, but they will allow other qualified people to run it. So in this way, there's going to be many lonely children and even lonely parents that are going to be joined together because they'll adopt these children, these orphans. And the good thing about this ministry is that it's going to do all the legwork, paperwork, all kinds of administration and work that otherwise would be too much for a potential adopting family. Sometimes people want to adopt, but it's just so much hoops and things to jump through that they just give up before they start. It just seems like too big a thing. So this ministry organisation is going to make it a whole lot easier by doing all the hard work and working with people to find adopt children, orphans, a lot easier and quicker. So this organisation you run is going to have lawyers who will be employed by the ministry and legislative experts to sort out legal issues for adoption, as well as lobbying governments and organisations to make overseas and internal adoptions much easier for those who are wanting to adopt these orphans, because we all know that some governments make it very hard for you to adopt even from orphanages. But there's going to be lawyers on your team and your ministry that are going to try and make changes where they can, from different countries, lawyers from different countries, or people who will contact lawyers in the country where the orphans are to work out how to legally get these children into the arms of their parents. And this is actually going to be a free service, I believe. This is what the Lord was telling me. So people are going to be encouraged to give a donation or what they can afford to give. But there's going to be many organisations and Christian organisations and businesses that will fund this ministry. So you're going to be able to provide it free for people. Your main objective is just getting the lonely and families, getting these orphans looked after. But at one point I can see $1 million being gifted into this ministry, and possibly more than once. So Point number 11, rescuing the trafficked. So I saw a picture of like I don't know what you call it, a whole line of white vans all at once going around the streets rescuing those in sex trafficking. I see soldiers or men and women who look like they're in armed defenders squads with assault rifles charging into brothels and pulling out 15, 20 women or children. And I can see in the vans you driving these rescued people off, rescued victims off, and in the vans each person is assigned kind of like a comforter or a helper to talk to that person that's just been rescued and attend to their needs and explain to them what's happening and that they're safe and they're going to be okay, all that. Putting their arm around them, telling them they're going to be okay. I sense this is going to be done in conjunction with law enforcement in the area. The rescuers seem here to be American. I see Ryan driving one of these vans in this vision that I saw. I see Maureen sitting beside him. I see Ryan leading all these vans to, like, kind of being the head van, leading them toward this remote location where the women and youth will be rehabilitated and given a new start at life, counselling, healing, work, whatever they need. I feel like Ryan and Maureen, you're going to own this rehabilitation centre, and you will also make sure that centres like this are built around the world in countries where you're able to do this. I see in this vision, I saw like Maureen and Ryan's van stopping first, and then I saw them get out first, and then I saw a whole line of rescued people with their helpers coming out of the vans and going into the building, and I saw like Ryan and Maureen like just touching each person on the shoulder, or just kind of saying, just kind of touching each person as they go into the building, just for that point of connection, so that these rescued victims will know that they're under protection of the best people possible, because I just sense that in this time, Ryan and Maureen, you will be known worldwide, so the people that see you will be greatly comforted to see that they're under your protection and that they've got the best people possible to help them. When time permits, I sense that when you go around different countries travelling, that you'll drop in on these centres to see how the people are, just to bring that personal touch, the centres that you own or that you oversee. I see Maureen being like a mother to the girls, cuddling them, teaching them different things when she visits, real maternal gift there. I see Ryan and Maureen counselling some of the rescued together. You will have time to do that from time to time, and making suggestions as to their care to those who are caring for the victims and in charge of their care. Point number 12, so writing literature to change mindsets and systems, also systematic abuse. I see Ryan in the era of lawmakers high up in government and practically dictating legislation and ideas for laws that would help put an end to a lot of abuse in families and organisations, and would also help target systematic problems and family issues that cause abuse of any kind to happen in the first place. I see books Ryan has written on sexual abuse for lawmakers as well as teachers, counsellors, and anyone in charge of people or policy. And I can see his books being placed in every school. I can see that you've written some books for children to help them understand what abuse is and how to know if they're being abused and what to do if they're being abused, who to go to, where to talk to, who to talk to. I can see you writing books for children about abuse that are put in schools, and I see that many children are going to be saved because they have this information, and they're going to know that what is happening to them is wrong and that it's not their fault, and they're going to find someone who is going to help them be safe and get the help they need and help possibly get out of that situation. So these books that Ryan writes are going to be placed in every school, counselling practice, police stations, even some of them read by the FBI, CIA, and members of Congress who are making policy on issues such as abuse. I actually see changes being implicated. I see people's misconceptions and misunderstandings about abuse, pornography, and family violence slowly being changed as these best-selling books that Ryan will write will start to change society and will be a catalyst to law changes which will protect especially children. So point number 13 is church pioneers. I see Ryan and Maureen starting up new kinds of churches and new breeds of churches that haven't been seen before, that will operate and function in a different way than the modern day churches now function. So the Lord's going to give Ryan and Maureen the blueprint for different churches that they will start and oversee, giving the leadership to those that they appoint in the churches. So every single new church is going to have its own blueprint. Every single church that you plant is going to be different. So it will have a different flavour and a different focus according to the creativity of the Lord in creating what a specific group of people need and what honours the Lord. There will be churches that are created for those who have come out of gangs, those who have an artistic creative bent, those who have churches that have an outreach, evangelistic and healing focus, that are mainly focused on outreaching in areas that Ryan and Maureen have planted several churches. I can see the different churches being friends and coming together for combined services, events and meals. I see that the Lord will establish these churches, and there's going to be a real strong sense of unity within the churches that get together that are in the same region that Ryan and Maureen have planted. Yeah, it's going to be a specific gift of unity that's going to be like an anointing that's on those churches that are planted in one region. So 3 points to go. So point number 14. This is for Ryan, a writer of exciting fiction novels. So I can see Ryan being a writer of first-class and best-selling novels about the adventures of those following the Lord, and I can see him having a lot of fun putting them together. This is going to be like a down activity for you, Ryan. It's not going to be hard to do. The stories are going to be fun and exciting to create, and you're going to have plenty of life experience to draw from for these fictional stories, and you're going to really enjoy producing them. It's kind of going to be like a sort of a little side hobby. So point number 15, this is for Maureen, speaker at women's conferences. I can see Maureen being a sought out speaker at women's conferences. I can see her also creating her own women's conferences in her own area that run annually. I see her organising it, speaking at these conferences, and also organising other speakers and other workers to get everything that needs to be done. I can see her speaking on deep issues of the heart, on loneliness, on abuse issues, on heartache, and on family life and marriage. I can see her speaking on following the Lord with all your heart, how to resolve family and marriage issues. I see her teaching on raising children God's way and being a safe place for those who are broken-hearted. I see her being a pillar in the church that many look up to and ask advice from and come to for a hug and to be listened to. I see her as being very warm, friendly and loving, and one who will be sought after for her advice and wisdom. So point number 16, this is for Ryan, Trusted Advisor Part B, because we did Part A before, or Part 1, I don't know. So I see Ryan as a trusted advisor to businesses, companies and ministries. I see you, Ryan, like having the wisdom of Solomon and this being widely known by people. Like you have the Midas touch in any company, business or ministry that you advise or give strategy, policy, direction to. The Lord will kind of like give you a blueprint, a strategy for that ministry, business, organisation, and when you do that and they put it into practice, then everything's going to flourish. It's just going to turn to gold. You won't need to travel to advise these people. You'll use communications technology, and everyone will know you have a box of solutions that for whoever you help and advise. You're not going to take all inquiries for help or asking for advice. You're not going to take all people who reach out to you, only the organisations that are worthy and have integrity that the Lord leads you to. However, there will be some organisations that the Lord leads you to which are corrupt or dishonest in their dealings, but the Lord is going to use you to help them and give them another chance to do things the right way, confront and turn from their wrongdoing, and their plans will succeed and prosper, because this time they will act justly and righteously and not rip people or systems off. So that's your ministry prophetic blueprint from Nicola Whitehall, what the Lord gave me for your prophetic blueprint ministry for Ryan and Maureen of Move Over Ministries, Kentucky, USA. And I hope you enjoyed this prophetic blueprint for your ministry, and I pray that it all comes to pass. Amen. How do I turn this off?